watch now. So once again, thank you so much. In comparison to Aaron's very visual talk, mine is more textual. So bear with me. You don't need to read all the slides. I have lots of information contained there. Feel free to email me if you need the slides. I tried to upload them on the drive, but it seemed I couldn't have permission or something. Anyway, so my name is Vasilis. I am a teaching fellow and research fellow at the University of Edinburgh. I'm part of multiple projects, part of the Edinburgh Futures Institute. I'm part of the Institute for the Study of Science, Technology and Innovation Network. We're working a lot with grassroots activists and community-led regeneration and data-driven innovation with the Data Civics project. We work with artists and data scientists in the New Real project, and we have a wonderful early career researcher community called AI Ethics and Society. So feel free to reach out if you ever come to Edinburgh. So today I'm gonna talk to you about bits and pieces, actually 50% of my PhD, which was about historical and empirical understanding of artificial intelligence. I use a combination of frameworks. One is called the sociology of expectations and promise. The main idea of that is that expectations do have a performative aspect. We talk a lot about arenas of expectation, how different groups build up expectations and create advocacies of different sorts to pursue certain technological options, and how they shape the development of given technologies such as artificial intelligence and policy. And I'm also using the framework of expertise and experience. So who counts as an expert, who decides what kind of expectations will be considered to be credible. And what I kind of add to that is a longitudinal understanding of the history of expectations and promises in artificial intelligence. Now, I have a bit of a background in media theory and media studies. I'm a big fan of Friedrich Kittler. I'm actually translating his book on optical media into Greek in the past 4 years. So during that PhD, I realized that STS and media archaeology have a lot in common if we consider the cultural technical dimension of that, but I don't mention this in my PhD. My framework overall looks at conceptualizations, promises and expectations, policy and regulation, and funding strategies. These 4 pillars are what kind of creates a mutual shaping framework. But today I'm going to focus mostly on 3 parts: the conceptualization, expectations, and motivational strategies. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna talk about 5 phases of AI development from 1955 to 2021. We'll report on arenas of expectations and give you a selected presentation of promissory statements throughout these years, and a selected and text-heavy presentation of definitions of artificial intelligence. As they have been unfolding. My main argument is that expectations have been shaping what we consider artificial intelligence to be, artificial intelligence over the years, that it's interconnected with many other technologies and so on. So 1955 was the year when John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Rochester, and Claude Shannon proposed a Dartmouth workshop to study artificial intelligence. So that's why I started in 1955. Of course, AI as a concept is way older. The robots and automata exist since many decades or even centuries. But during this phase, we have the development of 5 arenas of expectations. On the one hand, we have academic researchers who are trying to establish AI as a scientific field, and I place emphasis on the scientific field. So different approaches begin to emerge. McCarthy and Minsky were proponents of the symbolic AI, as it's been called. The main idea is that intelligence is based on the manipulation of symbols within the mind. And at the same time, we have the development of the perceptron theory that's based on the more empirical and inductive kind of mind as a representation of existing knowledge. And Newell and Simon, who proposed the idea of complex information processing, a way to be somewhere in between, and they opposed the term artificial intelligence because they found that quite misleading. At the same time, we have academic researchers sort of opposing the effectiveness of AI being influenced by practice-oriented governmental policies. That sounds very boring, but it's very important in the AI history. 1973, we have the Lighthill report. Fluids dynamics specialist James Lighthill was commissioned to write a report on AI's actual delivery of promises, and he wrote a very scathing report, which essentially led to the stop of funding in AI in the UK for the next 10 years or so. And this resulted to many researchers having to migrate and so on. At the same time, we've got, in the mid-60s, we've got the military arena, so military funding for AI. In 1969, we've got the Mansfield Amendment, which essentially said that every governmental expenditure on science and technology will need to come with a practical output. At the same time, then lots of funding went into statistical simulation and connectionist methods used for political purposes. If you are not familiar with the company Simulmatics, take a look at that company. They essentially did pretty much the same thing that Cambridge Analytica did with the election of President Trump in 2016, but they did that using statistical analysis and simulation, computer simulation in the 60s in order to support John F. Kennedy's election. And we also have science fiction. Science fiction is a huge arena perpetuating the idea of artificial intelligence. And one of the greatest moments was when the first arena, the academic researchers, started to influence science fiction in order to make it look more realistic. Marvin Minsky gave a talk, informed the production of 2001: A Space Odyssey as to how AJL, HAL, would be actually interacting with people if it was an actual thing. And in the premiere of the film, he gave statements about the future of AI. These are some examples of promises and expectations. One of the most famous ones is Simon and Newell's, that within 10 years, a digital computer will be the world's chess champion. Computer will build a new mathematical theorem, will write music that will be accepted by critics as possessing considerable aesthetic value. So quite similar to questions we have today about Midjourney and so on. Most theories in psychology will take the form of computer programs, and I won't stay a lot on these things. So these are the definitions from this era. So we've got complex information processing, that we have the idea that intelligence will be so precisely described so that a machine can be made to simulate it. And then what I find interesting is that during this time, AI researchers themselves avoid giving a precise definition of the field. They treat it as an open-ended scientific field, but they make very strong promises in order to convince funders and audiences as to the validity and the purpose of establishing such a field. The first person to give an actual definition of the subject of AI, or the ABC of the subject, was indeed Lighthill in 1973. 1973, who gave a very precise or appearing to be precise definition of the field as a combination of advanced automation, building robots, and the in-between computer-based central nervous system research. That was the ABC. Now, phase two is the waiting game. There isn't so much hype because of the AI winter. AI researchers continue to debate their theoretical research, but at the same time, they try to develop commercial systems. They changed the name of AI. That's one of the great effects of the AI winter, that in order to get funds, you rebrand the technology. So instead of calling that AI, you now call it knowledge-based expert systems, hedonistic expert systems, and various other names that have been coined during that time. Then we have the introduction of social scientists such as Langdon Winner criticizing the black boxness of AI, so very similar to what is happening today, and I'll return to that in a moment. And we also have the AI debates. That's one of my core arguments, that if you look for the term AI in documents of that era, it hasn't disappeared completely. It's not that the AI winter was as destructive as it's often presented. AI debates were transferred to different disciplines such as philosophy, psychology, literature, and art. So we've got literature from that time, and by literature, I mean both academic and science fiction literature debating AI, and philosophy and psychology or cognitive science were actually born during those eras. So promises here are relating to different types of approaches, such as the frame approach, when Minsky started looking at phenomenology, and he had this very computational understanding of phenomenology. We have Sutton and Bartow inventing the hedonistic learning system approach, so early basis for deep learning in the late 70s. And we have interesting definitions appearing in the field of art, such as Joshua Reihart's definitions of AI as artificial behavior or simulation of artificial behavior by computer programs and robots. Theoretical, we have Aaron Sloman, philosopher of computing, who tried to give a definition that was very similar to Lighthill's. And we have our favorite Douglas Hofstadter, who started debating AI in his very popular cognitive science book in Gödel after Bach. Then we have the very interesting cycle of the 80s. That was the time when a knowledge-based expert system expert, Edward Feigenbaum, who was married to a Japanese woman, went to Japan and heard the Japanese Ministry of Technology's announcement for their 5th generation computer program, which appeared to be very threatening for the market and the military of the United States. So we've got this very interesting combination of AI scientists repurposing AI in order to fit commercial purposes, rebranding AI again as commercial Lisp machines or expert systems. We've got the connectionist approach, developing neural network methods, building on Rosenblatt's perceptron theory, but never calling it AI. And then we've got the Strategic Computing Initiative, which was a response to the US response to the so-called Japanese threat, which brought together early internet web technologies such as the TCP/IP protocol and packet switching into AI research in the early 80s. And at the same time, we've got the new arena of social scientists pairing with AI communities and computer science communities in order to promote a sort of anti-military notion and sentiment, forming the Computer Professionals for Social Responsibility team, which was formed in the early 80s, dismantled just in the last decade. And at the same time, in Europe, we've got programs responding to the Japanese fifth computer generation hype. We've got the European project Esprit, the UK ALVI, and the information superhighways. These are some examples of what happened in the US when the Japanese started promoting the idea of the fifth generation computer program. Feigenbaum gave a testimony to the US Congress, and he was the one who proposed that the nearest thing we have to the Ministry of Technology in Japan for computing technology is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. So he kind of initiated that massive 10-year project, and DARPA invited Robert Kahn, who is still alive, the person who created the TCP/IP protocol in the late 60s, thought that applications drive requirements of intelligent functions drive requirements of system architecture.
Vasilis,
yes,
we have 5 minutes left.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. And system architectures drive requirements of microelectronics and infrastructure. So in his realm, artificial intelligence as a term does not exist at all, but he wanted to create intelligent functions. He wanted to create AI, and he was paid to create that, and that created huge expectations, and this kind of revamped the idea of AI becoming a thing. At the same time, we had John Searle kind of thinking that artificial intelligence is not human intelligence, that two shouldn't be confused. That's the time when we have all these debates. So the AI scientists kind of debate what is the essence of AI. Some AI scientists say, no, we should do more theory, we should do more basic AI research. Some people divide the AI as a field of science and as a field of technology. But essentially what happens, what eventually went into the textbooks of the mid-90s was that AIs are systems. So systems that think like humans, systems that act like humans, systems that think rationally, systems that act rationally. So it is my argument that through that practice-oriented and military-oriented sort of sentiment, AI transformed during that time from a science into a technology. Phase 4 is the sort of silent years where sort of the internet is taking over the hype. So I suggest that the internet hype kind of overshadows the AI hype, but it was a time when lots of data have been produced online. And because of that, the Web 2.0 boom, because of that, people started thinking towards how to extract data. I don't have enough time to stay here. What happened in phase 5, that's where we are now, I think. Essentially, all this data gave the bread and butter of contemporary machine learning AI, which is a development of the connectionist approach to AI. The symbolic AI dimension is partly forgotten. So therefore, if you look at the newspapers, the people who developed these techniques in the 80s, such as Geoff Hinton and Yann LeCun, are considered to be the godfathers of AI. So there's nearly forgetfulness about the early people doing AI. What we have is what I call the expanding experts. So people who have little or no expertise in AI, who become massive commentators of AI. People like Stephen Hawking, Henry Kissinger, Nick Bostrom, sort of interfering with what AI can do or not. DARPA played again a huge role with the Project Maven and the way technologies are going to be used in the battlefield. And to sum up, because this information will take forever. So some carry home messages. AI specialists avoid definitions, but put promises forward as motivating strategies to establish their fields or earn trust. Non-specialist critics define AI in order to sharpen their criticisms. Definitions of technoscience follow promises of technoscience, but then generate more promises. That's what I call the conceptualization expectation dialectic. Then AI hype migrates from specialist communities to non-specialist communities, technical specialists in this sense. Incremental innovation during these waiting games of so-called winters always matters. It's what happens in these sort of silent years that gives rise to AI hype cycles afterwards. I treat the notion of the cycle to be equally reductionist as the linear prospect and trajectory of the breakthrough. I say that the history of AI cannot be understood without the history of related advances in ICT, such as the internet, and corporate military practice and application orientation is able to transform theoretical science into practical technology. So I think that AI counts as technoscience proper in this sort of conceptualization, expectation, motivation, trialectic, which is presented here. Yes, think always of who is an expert and what is the expectation, and to what extent there is a trade of exploitation of available funding and resources as opposed to exploration of blue sky research and so on. It's my view that it's always somewhere between these four EXP words that something interesting happens. So thank you. Ran a bit over time, but open to questions and